You're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. It's more fun to believe. Third year bonus. Hey, how you doing? Did that kind of sound like that sounded like a you up opening. Welcome to Me and Paranormal You. This is your buddy Ryan Singer. Thank you for listening to the Mindcast, also known as a podcast. We are doing a third year bonus here today, which means this is a solo episode. And before we get going, I just want to mention that the Seed and Spark campaign for the paranormal investigation show, Liminal, has been funded 100% as of about 30 minutes ago. That doesn't mean that it's too late to donate and contribute, because you still can. I'm going to link in the show notes, but you can just go search Liminal TV show, I believe, or Liminal show on Seed and Spark, and it's going to show up, right? So you got to get over there, and you get to be a part of it. You get to be a part of just a really cool show that occupies the liminal space, and you know, it really embodies what it means to have an authentic investigation. And you know, I love that kind of stuff. So you can go back in a few weeks ago and listen to the interview I did with my friend Dash, and you can hear all about it. So, but yeah, seedandspark.com. You can go there and you can still get on it. And like I said, I'll link it in the show notes. So push them to their stretch goals, and who knows, you might see a familiar face on a future episode. Okay, so let's get into the program. Boy, what a busy day it's been over here at the watering hole in the astral plane. I got to tell you, whether I was on hold for an hour with the Bowling Green, Ohio clerk of courts, only to hang up, call right back, and then just get a voicemail message that I could have just done. Anyway, it's not nothing to be concerned about. I received a ticket. I was driving back from my buddy Mario's place in Michigan late one night. I decided on Interstate 75 to stop by my old stomping grounds, Bowling Green State University, because I needed gas. So I was like, you know what? I'll pull off here, drive down the main drag just to kind of take a trip down memory lane. I really haven't been there since I dropped out of college in 1998 or 99. I can't really remember. I think it was 1998 when I dropped out of college. I was a theater major there. So it's like, I'm just going to drive down. I have pulled off at that exit to get gas, but I've never ventured more than, just that little 1/8 of a mile off the freeway right there. So I drove down the drag and then, kind of cruised around, and there was a bunch of drunk kids running around. It was ridiculous. I'm like, oh my God. This is dashing any idea I've ever thought about going to grad school as a middle-aged man. So anyway, I pull out of the gas station, and then there's a cop in the gas station, and of course he pulls out behind me and follows me and then pulls me over, even though I'm not doing anything wrong. Turns out my registration had been expired for 6 months. So I'm riding dirty. I'm riding like the dirtiest I've ever ridden. Well, that might not be true, but the point, because I was gifted DMT over the weekend, so I guess that's riding pretty dirty. Now, it turns out I had paid my registration in December of last year. The state of California, for whatever reason, decided they weren't going to issue it to me, or forgot to. And so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I get out of it. We'll see if I have to pay a ticket for something that I should never have had to pay a ticket for. Regardless, we had a lot of happenings going on here today. We're making moves on the Fitz documentary. We are currently in some conversations with some musicians for some music, so I'll have some samples by the end of the week. I am in the final stages of that documentary. Essentially, it is done. It is finished. I have color corrected it for the most part. I have leveled and edited all of the audio throughout the hour and 45 minutes of the documentary. It comes in just under an hour and 45 now. The only thing we need to do is get some opening titles animated and put together, and then me clean up some of the things and add captions to for when it needs to be uploaded to a streaming service at some point. Now, it is finished, and I am so excited. I mean, I will still be working on it here for the next few days, but these are just, final flourishes, final touches, putting some polish on it, putting some lipstick on this paranormal pig. I just love this idea that it's almost finished, and I can't wait for you to see it. I have uploaded a previous version to the Patreon in the past. This is a much different version, and by much different, I mean it's different. It is definitely tighter. The story moves, I believe. It looks good, and it's a very DIY thing, all filmed by Greg and Mama Sue out in the field, and then us when we went there just to do some interviews. I think you're going to love it. And if the music thing comes together the way I'm hoping it will, which I believe it will, I think we're in a really good spot. And, when you'll be able to watch it, I don't know. We're going to try to go to film festivals and some other things first before we release it, and then we'll go from there. But nonetheless, that thing is going to be finished. And then I move on with my life. And guess what? I had such an incredible weekend hanging out with my buddy Karen Rontowski and all the other fun aliens at a Hot Alien Summer Camp. Second year in a row I've been there. Had such a good time. Had such a great time hanging out with everybody, playing Jenga outside until about 2 a.m. after the show. What a really fun time. Karen Rontowski, by the way, all-time great. She's in the Mount Rushmore of, just awesome people to be friends with, hang out with, do shows with. No, she's on the Mount Rushmore. The Paranormal Karen, the psychic stand-up, just the Panera hangs and going over jokes. Karen and I have very different styles of stand-up comedy, which makes it really enjoyable, I think, for both of us to do shows together because, I really admire things I can't do or things I don't do because my strengths are in other areas. And Karen's strengths are in the areas where my strengths are not, specifically with stand-up. And I really enjoy it. And we're gonna do more shows together. We're gonna be doing more shows together. You bet your sweet tush. You bet your bottom dollar. That'll happen. We're gonna figure it out. And this is me letting her know that that's gonna happen right now. She doesn't know it yet, but I'm telling her through you that we're gonna be doing a lot more together. So in the future. Always a great time. She gave me a psychic reading on the fly as part of the stand-up the psychic stand-up portion of the show that we did. And I got to tell you, holy smokes, are her readings just always spot on. Last year at this show, she told me that I would be moving somewhere, but it would be delayed for some reason. I didn't even remember this until someone brought it up to me, that they remembered exactly what she said last year. And guess what happened? I was delayed in moving because a car ran into my apartment, right? And then this year she told me something that, that I had already done a very preliminary set into motion thing. Okay, I'll tell you. I asked her what I should be focusing my career energy into after I'm finished with a major project that I've been working on, which is the Fitz documentary. She said, she pulled a bunch of cards, did the reading, and she said, marketing. You need to be marketing your career. And I was like, oh my God, that's so funny, because one of my good buddies, my good buddy Dave, who's, filmmaker, editor, sound guy extraordinaire, he 2 weeks ago had already had a conversation with me about doing all kinds of editing of clips and potential animation for a bit, and then some other things, some other ideas that I've had for a while that I've just never had time to do. So all the people who are wondering, like, where can I see more of your stand-up? That's not going to be an issue here very soon. There's going to be a lot more of my stand-up out there very, very soon. Speaking of which, you can still come see me on the road. I'll be in Louisville, Kentucky this Friday, which is August 16th. Then I will be in Asheville, North Carolina on August 18th, Sunday night at Catawba Brewing Company. The Louisville on Friday is at Planet of the Tapes, one of my favorite clubs in the entire world. And then Sunday night, Asheville, North Carolina, Catawba Brewing. And then Wednesday, the 21st, I will be at the, oh God, what's it called? I know the name of it. It's a brewing, my buddy Lou puts the show on. I've done it the last few years. Something Borderline Brewing Company, Waterline Brewing. Why am I blanking on the name? I could just look up on my calendar right now, but I'm being kind of a lazy guy. But I'll do it. I will do it. Waterline Brewing Company. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll be at the Waterline Brewing Company doing a show on Wednesday, August 21st. And then Labor Day weekend, I'll be Thursday through Sunday at Go Bananas Comedy Club in Cincinnati. Looking forward to that. And then, sadly, on September 7th, I will be doing the final farewell show at Wiley's Comedy Club in Dayton, Ohio. That show sold out in less than a minute. So I'm not really plugging it, I guess, because there's no need to be purchasing tickets because that show sold out in less than 1 minute. Shows haven't sold out of that comedy club in less than 1 minute since back in the day. And this is like pre-Chappelle show day. Back in the pre-Chappelle show day, Dave Chappelle would do Thanksgiving weekend, Friday and Saturday at Wiley's Comedy Club every year. Because he was Dayton famous before he was worldwide famous. Everybody in Dayton knew how funny his stand-up was, 15 years ago or whatever it was, 20 years ago, before he became super famous. And his shows would sell out in mere moments for an entire weekend. Well, we did that. And it's a fitting way for Wiley's Comedy Club, which has been my home, one of the birthplaces of my entire adult life. God, I'm going to miss that place. And it makes me sad even talking about it right now, so we're going to move on. Yeah, that's a big part of my life that's disappearing. Such is life, death and rebirth. I'll have to find a new home in Dayton, Ohio for stand-up comedy, and I'm sure it'll happen, but I'm not ready to, move on from that relationship quite yet because they're still open for another few weeks. Anyway, so what else is going on in the world of paranormal? Okay, so this is something interesting. I know a lot of people have been hot on this for a minute. Admittedly, it's not my thing. The human design. I had a human design reading, kind of on the fly over the weekend. I'm a projector. And, I didn't know what I was going to be because I didn't know what the things you were that you could be. And part of me was like, oh, is this just the latest, greatest, newest astrology? And I don't know the history of it yet. We're going to get into more human design stuff later. I'm hoping my buddy Eli will come on the show at some point, and maybe we'll discuss all things human design potentially. But there was some interesting things. Apparently, I'm a projector. My power or authority comes from my spleen, and I'm a 3-5, and I'm a martyr and a heretic. And they explained this part to me, and it really resonated. This was the part that really captured me. I like to stir the pot, right? I do like to stir the pot. And ever since I was a kid, I let a walkout in high school. It changed the policy. They put a new no walkout policy or you're immediately expelled kind of thing. In college, I was pretty fiery and, was very, I was very into social justice, right? Not that I am still not, but just in a, I guess, the forms of which we, project our innermost thoughts, feelings, and emotions and beliefs. They transition and they change over time. So I'm a projector, 3-5, heretic, martyr, coming at you from my spleen, apparently. So, which is interesting because when it comes to the idea of listening to your intuition, trying to connect with your guides, tapping into your psychic abilities, your clairvoyance, your clairsentience, all of these things, psychometry, whatever you want to, whichever one you're thinking about right now. I have always had this interesting sensation from like inside my gut where I don't necessarily hear a voice being like, do this, as much as I feel something physically, right? And so they explained that to me, and I was just like, oh my God, this is that thing, potentially. This is my inner authority. This is my spleen's been talking to me this whole time. And don't even get Nigel started on this. Nigel believes that all of our organs are independent entities to a certain degree with their own individual sentience working together in a collaborative. No, I don't need to bring you in on this. Can I just have one episode where we don't get Nigel involved? We don't need you involved on this, but okay, fine.
I think you do.
Yeah, I unmuted you. Yes.
Thank you,
seems
Ron.
to be the thing we do now.
I suppose it is. And I've got to tell you, according to the messages I've been receiving, the very well-written, elegantly scribed emails that come into the show, I'll have to tell you that people enjoy our back and forth.
Oh, do they? I guess you don't really tell me about it.
Yes, our banter to and fro.
Yeah, the banter to and fro. You should
it's like a nice little tennis match.
Yes, I love tennis. I always have loved tennis. But you should tell me about
these. You should watch more tennis.
I'm not talking about I do love it.
I didn't know you loved it so much.
I do. I love to play. Yeah.
Righto.
I do love
to
play.
Lefty, you're probably a little bit tricky on the serve.
You know, I got some nasty spin on it.
I can be complimentary to you.
Yes, I guess you can.
Yes, indeed.
I guess you can. So anyway, you were going to tell us about how you think our organs are alive or something like that.
Oh, yes, that's right. I do believe that all of our internal organs, like you said, have individuality, that they have sentience, that they are operating to a degree on their own free will. That's why organs all do different things. And yet, we're all carbon-based. All of our organs are made up of the same materials at the end of the day, but they take different shapes and forms, much like you and I are composed of the same base materials, but yet we take quite different forms, and I might say thankfully so, as I much prefer my form to yours, so. Right?
Oh, you do. So you're digging on my appearance. You know, it's you know, it hasn't been my entire life where I've been comfortable with how I look, Nigel. And you know, to have my closest confidant, my producer, my friend, start digging on me on the show about my personal appearance or my form, that's fine. Anyway, I've muted you, yes, because we don't tolerate that kind of negativity on the program. So I have muted you for the time being right now. Now, what I want to say here is that it is an interesting concept, that our organs, etc. I think you can kind of hear the fan on my computer just kicked on. Things are getting hot around here. I'm getting hot under the collar over here, Nigel, because of your, slinging insults. Anyway, it is interesting to think about the idea that our organs could have their own free will, as you would say. I mean, I don't know. That gets into a whole nother discussion. Does my heart, do my kidneys, do they have souls, individual souls? See, that's, or spirits, or like if I have to have a kidney removed, do I now have a ghost of a kidney? Do I have a kidney ghost following me around on the inside, haunting my stomach? Is that why my stomach is always so upset? Because it's constantly scared by a kidney that was removed, which I've never had a kidney removed. So these are all hypotheticals. And if you've had a kidney removed, I apologize. I'm not trying to make light of your plight. Anyway, let's get to the program. Even though it looks like we need to take a commercial break, let's do that real quick. Oops, sorry about the elbow bumps on the table. We're going to do a quick commercial break. Just a reminder, patreon.com/Ryan Singer. $3 a month gets you all of these without commercials. Thank you so much to the patrons. Love y'all over there. We did our first live stream last week. We got more and more coming. I might even put out, I just found some footage today. Anyway, we'll talk more about that later. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. And we're back on the program, and welcome back to the program. I hope you made it back. And we're going to do what I've been loving lately. Or I'm going to do a book draw real quick from... This is going to be the last book draw we do, at least for a while, from The Trickster and the Paranormal, written by George P. Hansen. What an incredible book. Let me get this music out of here all the way. And we're back. Okay, so Nigel should be doing that. Sorry, I didn't mean to shout at Nigel, but he said I was ugly earlier, kind of. Something along the... Well, he didn't say I was ugly. He just said he preferred his form to mine. But he said it in a way that was distasteful. Nonetheless, chapter 26, page 422. Ooh, I love that, 422. For obvious reasons. Chapter 26. Oh, wow. So 42226. Entitled Conclusions. Supernatural events have been reported for millennia. For example, miracles of Moses, Jesus, Muhammad. They have played central roles in history's most important cultural transformations. They are frequently portrayed in the world's greatest art and literature. The majority of the U.S. adult population believes in paranormal phenomena. Yet debates still rage about their very existence. These facts indicate a problematic situation of a very deep order. Parapsychology is engaged in something drastically different than, quote, normal science, end quote, and those who pretend otherwise are gravely deluded. In times past, sorry, I'm out of breath here today. In times past, the supernatural was seen as all-encompassing, providing a ground for existence, but it was also recognized as irrational and dangerous. In academia now, those ideas are viewed as quaint, as artifacts of the emotions, as nonsensical, or due to neurotic or infantile thought. Earlier people's understanding of the world was entirely different than that of elite culture today. It makes sense to reevaluate those older, forgotten, marginalized, and discredited ideas. They can expose the limits of, quote, rationality. This book focused on the paranormal, and by now the reader probably realizes that there is no way to succinctly survey the contents. This summary excludes much. I will simply recap a few key points, review some examples, and try to bring a little coherence to the diversity of topics. Major issues include marginality, binary oppositions, rationality, and rationalization. The Trickster is pertinent to them all. I began this book with the goal of explaining why deception is so frequently encountered with the paranormal. For example, fraudulent mediumship, UFO hoaxes. Ryan will add in here, alleged crop circle hoaxes, the confusion of magic tricks with psychic phenomena. This led me to consider the Trickster figure, and as I became familiar with him, I found that he shared a number of other characteristics of the paranormal. As I learned more about his qualities, I began to recall similar ones in the paranormal, properties that others had discounted as happenstance or inconsequential. For instance, paradox, ambiguity, and marginality typify them both. I also discovered that the Trickster was an important figure in many, quote, primitive, end quote, religions. But curiously, he is now rather neglected. The paranormal today. The paranormal is perplexing. Its place in society as well as laboratory research demonstrate the peculiarities. Any comprehensive theory must accommodate, integrate, and explain the oddities. I will review several. Today, few groups make concerted attempts to elicit psi. Some that do include spiritualists trying to contact the dead, practitioners of modern-day witchcraft, and parapsychologists and laboratories. These are usually small efforts. Generally, fewer than a dozen persons are involved in any given undertaking. Spiritualist and witchcraft groups are typically short-lived and are rarely successful at establishing stable institutions with grounds, buildings, and paid staff. There are umbrella associations, but those are loose networks and confederations which exert no control and have no ecclesiastical power over local groups. When such organizations do institutionalize, such as spiritualist camps, they develop reputations for fraudulent mediumship and become even more marginal. The telephone psychic hotlines constitute another example. They have very unsavory reputations for preying on poor, vulnerable people in times of need. Several organizations that began with an emphasis on paranormal phenomena did institutionalize and were able to maintain relatively untarnished reputations. However, in their evolution, they greatly reduced or eliminated attempts to elicit phenomena. The anti-institutional nature of psi is seen in other ways. Psychics, spiritualist mediums, psychic detectives, and healers virtually never serve in those capacities as employees in industry, government, or academia. Typically, they operate as independent agents. Many practitioners do have ordinary jobs in large organizations, but they carry on their psychic activities outside that employment. Outside that employment. I don't know what happened to my voice there. Parapsychology shows a similar pattern. It has had only slight success at institutionalizing. It has nary one secure, permanent research laboratory in government, industry, or academe that is, it's ACADEME. I was saying academia, but that's not right. Or academe, that is assured of continuing after the founder leaves. There are no university departments of parapsychology. A few college professors offer courses and conduct research, but that effort has never become part of the established ongoing curriculum in the universities. J.B. Rhine's lab at Duke University lasted 30 years, far longer than any other, but it was outside the usual departmental structure. When he retired, the Duke research stopped. Rhine exemplifies the general pattern, and there is no counterexample. We'll wrap it up with this. The term anti-structure subsumes these anti-institutional qualities. In some formulations, marginality is a type of anti-structure. It is a salient characteristic of paranormal groups, which in many eyes are seen as strange or even kooky, something avoided by reputable, rational scientists. Academic psychologists and sociologists do study belief in the paranormal, and they conduct surveys of paranormal experiences, but as a practical matter, they are forbidden, parenthetically, via subtle pressures. To attempt to include the phenomena, engage them directly, as is done in normal scientific research. It is acceptable to discuss the supernatural in universities, but in courses on literature and religion, these events are presented as long ago and far away. Long ago and far away. That's a Waylon Jennings song that I'm butchering right now. Or, it ends up, they are presented as long ago and far away, or as explicitly fictional. That'd be the name of a good podcast. Explicitly fictional, for these kinds of topics. Oh, that reminds me, I got to plug my buddies. My buddy Eric Lampere. I got to have him on the show to talk about the new podcast. He recently has launched a new podcast called Art of the Covenant, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Madness, beautiful, beautiful madness that discusses artwork and its connections to esoteric knowledge and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I got to get him on the show, and we got to talk about that. He's over in Europe. He's moved back across the pond, and God, I missed that beautiful, beautiful man. So we'll make that happen again at some point in the relative future. But Art of the Covenant is the name of that podcast. So check that out. I'll link that in the show notes as well. In Paranonymous, still putting that call out there. You can check, you check the show notes for the phone number and all that good stuff. Marginality and anti-structure. These are fascinating concepts, and they are concepts that I enjoy. I enjoy them for lots of reasons. They're a part of my life, and a I would say a major way. Anti-structure has been, kind of my calling card for a long time, and the way I have chosen to live my life. And I'm not just talking paranormal stuff. In the world of a struggling or successful artist, it doesn't matter. There is anti-structure. Although I would argue that the more structure that one is able to incorporate into their lives, they might be more mainstream. And by more mainstream, that's not a dig. What I'm saying is they might find more commercial success. Am I saying that I don't have the commercial success that I should because I refuse to implement structures in a rigid and bountiful way into my life? I'm not saying that, but it is quite possible, actually. And there are times where I'm like, oh man, I really just, I just need to buy like a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, Florence, Alabama. I just need, I need like $100,000. And that shouldn't be too difficult to get over the period of a few years, if one is working. And, so we'll see. And then I start having all these ideas about structure, how I need all these structures in my life. I need schedules and to-do lists and all those kinds of things. I've never been a to-do list guy. Now, deadlines I have recently started incorporating into my life because of a beautiful TED Talk about procrastination that I watched. I've talked about it on here previously. Game changer. Loved it. But the marginality is... it goes to me. It makes sense why marginality and anti-structure go hand in hand, and why they are siblings, if not close cousins, or close cousins, if not siblings, I should say. I did that backwards. It doesn't matter how I did it. I think you understand the sentiment behind it. To be existing on the fringes, on the edges, in the margins, which is encompassing the marginal space, I think, is what marginality is. If I had to define it with my limited knowledge of the English, the English rules and things like that, even though I'm being facetious, I think I have a little better grasp of that. But occupying that marginal space, marginality. So without the structure, if you embrace anti-structure, you must also embrace marginality. And I think you have to be okay with that. And if you are into the world of the paranormal, you 100% are at the very least very comfortable entertaining marginality and anti-structure. What do I mean by that? Let me explain. It is damn near impossible to box in paranormal phenomena. It has similar characteristics that many people have experienced. There are, what's the word I'm looking for? There are these very clear signs and symbols that are relatable from one person to another when relaying their own personal experiences, whether they're SPEs, spontaneous paranormal experiences, or sought after, or SAPEs. I guess I just made that one up. There's SPEs and there's SAPEs. There's SPA and SAPA. SAPE and SPA. SPAs and SAPAs. So sought after paranormal experiences can be pretty wild. And, the spontaneous ones obviously are just, talk about getting, shake, rattle, and hum. Is that the U2 album, Shake, Rattle? And it's maybe it's just rattle and hum. I'm thinking of shake, rattle, and roll. What am I on right now? Who knows, man? Nobody knows, man. Ain't nobody ever gonna know, neither. So I think you're playing a losing battle if you're trying to box in and clearly define paranormal phenomena. And to me, that is what structure is. clearly defined boundaries, systems that are reliable and repeatable. Ring a bell, like a scientific method, being able to repeat. Paranormal phenomena embodies the anti-structure. It refuses to be caged. It's like an octopus. It can fit through a keyhole if need be to escape this cage you're trying to put it in. So the anti-structure is, the paranormal embodies it. It is part of it. This is where, I really jive with what Hansen is saying here. It is, it's fun. We talk about a unified paranormal theory and how great that would be. And, all these common characteristics. Well, why do orbs always show up where Bigfoot is, and also where UFOs are seen, or strange activity or ghosts are happening? Why are these hot spots? Some people call them hot spots. There's these characteristics, like I said, that seemingly can be identified. That does not mean we can identify the definition of all of this. We can identify the characteristics, but we cannot define it, is what I should have said. Instead of identifying the definition, that's a rotund. It's a rotund explanation when it's supposed to be redundant. It's redundant. You know what I just realized the other day? This is just like yesterday I realized this. I was saying the word discover. And as I said discover, I was like, oh my God, that's so similar to uncover. And so to uncover something is the same as discovering it. And so it really I just finally, for the first time in my life, felt so much joy when I realized what the word discover meant. Oh my God, I'm crying right now practically, because I'm literally, legitimately overjoyed by the fun meanings and understandings of certain words. Discover, the same way as you could be pleased or displeased. You have been removed of your please, so you've been displeased. Like you're covered and now you're discovered, revealing what was under the cover. You've discovered it. I have never thought of the word in that way. It's the same as uncover. So, oh my God, I want to uncover so many things in life. So to me, they're synonyms, and I might start using the word uncover instead of the word discover, because it just sounds weirder, and people are going to be like, you're weird. And I'll be like, you just uncovered that? What will you discover next? And then who knows? You might even uncover some more. Wait, I said uncover twice. Why did I feel like I was doing a third one? Uncover, discover, and then there's recover, something you forgot, but I've uncovered yet again. You've recovered it. Oh my God, that is a word. Recovery is a word. Jeez. Wow. Why are we not talking about, talk about cover-ups. You know what's been covered up? All the beautiful ways and meanings of the word cover. Oh my God. That's what's been covered up. Time to discover the cover-up. Uncover the discover of the cover-up. I decided to take a drink. I apologize for that. I needed to lube up my throat pipe. So, my talk pipe, my word canal. My word canal. Wow, something happened here. This whole discovery rant thread here that I've been pulling has put me into a superfragilist. It's put me into a super silly mode. I'm trying to remember. Supercalifragilistic exponentiality? What was I can't remember the word from a few weeks ago. Anyway, so we're back. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to try to get my silly together. We're going to try to, put some structure around the silly so we can actually get some more, maybe some more information about the paranormal, because we haven't even gotten into marginality. And then we're going to, of course, we're going to get into the Book of Symbols, Reflections on Archetypal Images by Taskin. I like to do the tandem. If I'm going to read from the Trickster and the Paranormal, I got to tie it in. We'll see what magic awaits that we can uncover. And we are back from that commercial break. I hope you're back. I know I am back. Patrons, you didn't have to listen to any commercials. Isn't that great? You probably just hear a few seconds of music. The beautiful, the dulcet tones of the song that my buddy Alex Stein created. I created the main feed or the experience music that you hear. That's music I created. Alex Stein created what we call dots. This is the Me and Paranormal You dots song for the third year bonuses, in case you were wondering. Okay, so we want to talk about marginality just a little bit, I believe. And in tandem with anti-structure, why the paranormal, is such a, I want to say almost a breeding ground for these things, but it's part of its nature. And sorry, I'm drinking this sparkling water, and it's very bubbly. It's got so many bubbles inside my body right now. I'm trying to get off sodas, right? I'm trying to cut down sodas. I've cut out sugar for the most part. Your guy over here is doing his best to try to live forever. So, anyway, so marginality. Now, to fully embrace the paranormal, or to try to fully embrace these concepts, you find yourself on the margins, pushed to the margins. As much as you want to find your way into the center of things to be able to keep your balance, this is what I think of when I think of this. It's hard to keep your balance when you're on the margin, right? It's a little more narrow out there. The footing is a little more murky. So you don't have a center of gravity to really anchor yourself. There is the unexpected, there is the unknown, and it can be uneasy out there because you don't have the answers that you would have if you were in the middle, in the consensus area, right, where the majority hangs out and takes place. The paranormal is on the edges. It is on the fringe. And to even be seeking it as such means you are participating in activities that are not the dominant cultural activity. Now, pop culture and through television has, created its own world or version of what it is to be a paranormal researcher and or investigator, with all the ghost hunting shows, etc., etc. That is not what the world is like in reality. And I think we know that, right? Inherently, if everyone was asked, they would say, oh no, I understand, it's just television. Yet you see many replicating what they see on television in the real world in a way that, I don't know, might do a disservice to their own experience. Nonetheless, there's a difference between real life experience and what is packaged for television and entertainment. We all know that, right? So even on the margins of entertainment, that's where the paranormal shows exist. So even as mainstream as they try to package some of this stuff, where they hoax stuff, they fake things, it's still marginalized. It's still in the margins of, think of the entertainment world as a giant circle. The paranormal is on the edge of the circle. It doesn't matter how mainstream you try to make it at this point. It's been on the edge of the circle. It's seeped in a little bit. Most assuredly, it definitely has seeped in. But will it ever be the center? I don't know. If it ever becomes the center, try to imagine this, if you can, in your mind. Try to imagine the unimaginable. Try to believe the unbelievable. Is Thaddeus X going to come in for a little guest spot on the show at some point? Nigel doesn't want him to, but we'll have to see. So try to imagine the unimaginable here for a second, if I can get you to do that. The paranormal becomes the center of gravity, right? Becomes no longer on the margin, right? So what then becomes the margins? normalcy? Is that when, so if you kind of flip everything upside down, or more, I'd say more inside out than upside down, what then happens? The strange also gets flipped inside out. The unexplainable. Like, what if I were to tell you that in the not too distant future, the idea that ghosts float or walk or exist amongst us is readily believed and understood by even the youngest of people? The idea of a multiverse, of multidimensionality, of portals and cryptids and creatures, once thought only to be mythological or explicitly fictional, walked amongst us in the open, and we just all coexisted together peacefully to a certain degree. I mean, we don't even coexist peacefully as humans, right, across the board. So to expect such might be unrealistic with other kind of creatures and entities. Nonetheless, we do a pretty good job for the most part. Now, think about what everything that gets pushed to the margins would be, where the structure breaks down. What we believed to be real, what we believed to be our world, is now marginalized. What if the material world becomes marginalized and the world of the idealist, understanding that consciousness is the key and is everything, and everything grows from that as an expression of itself, only in a way so that we can experience some kind of temporal, physical, emotions, pleasures, pains, etc., to have an experience of some kind in this dimension. That is what is real, and everything else becomes, what is that? What is the physical world? It doesn't even, people stop believing in the physical world. And then there's other people out there being like, no, we're investigating the real world. We're real world investigators. We're going to try to prove that this chair is solid. They are the paranormal investigators. I mean, that just seems wild, right? Anyway, I just pitched you my cartoon show, Late Night on the Astral Plane, which never sold. So, why didn't that cartoon show sell? It was a brilliant premise, and you can't make people see your vision. You can't always you can't force someone to understand the possibilities that lay in front of them. And in 10 years, someone will be doing this show. And I tried to sell it 15 years too soon. It wouldn't be the first time that that's happened. So just keep that in mind when you see something like that on your television in 10 years from now. If televisions even exist 10 years from now. So marginality and anti-structure are both big parts of the paranormal. I would agree with that sentiment that Hansen lays out. And that is the trickster's playground. And what a fascinating playground it is. Let me do a book draw here. This one might be a little bit shorter than maybe we will do a full hour tonight. I'm not 100% sure. Still looking for some people to call in for Paranonymous, the new podcast I'll be launching at some point here in the future. The Archive for Research in Archetypal Symbolism, the Book of Symbols, Reflections on Archetypal Images, brought to you by Random House and read by Ryan Singer. Okay, what do we get? I'm not looking. Butterfly / moth. Oh, I already kind of know what's coming here. And boy, oh boy, is it going to be a good one. This is from the Arachnids and Insects section. The words in this book are quite tiny, so bear with me, as sometimes I can't see the words. Butterfly moth, page 234. Wow, we like that, don't we? It was chapter 26, it was 422, now it's 234. You can get 4 and 6 out of both of these because, 2 times 3 is 6, obviously, and then there's just 4. That's for 234. Okay. And, add them all together. What do you get? You get 9. And 9 is, square root of 9 is 3. There's lots of fun with numbers. And make no mistake that these are the exact pages we're supposed to be reading. Butterfly moth. Kneeling before one another, a young man and woman kiss. As a magically large butterfly hovers above the blossoming flowers, a reminder of erotic release and the imbibing of the sweet nectar of first love. I didn't know it was going to get so saucy. I didn't know that. So you're welcome or I apologize. Let's continue. From ancient times, the butterfly, Psyche, has signified not only the mystery of metaphysical metamorphosis, but also the loveliest transmutations of the soul. There are more than 100,000 known species of butterflies and moths, insects that have 2 sets of scaly, often vividly colored wings, slender bodies, and sensitive antennae. Auditory organs between the thorax and abdomen detect the ultrasonic echolocating signals of a primary predator of these delicate beings, the bat. Moths are millions of years older than butterflies, more subdued in coloring and mostly nocturnal, navigating by moon or stars. Butterflies are diurnal creatures, navigating by the sun. It's like they're the yin and yang of one another. That's pretty cool. All over the world, the gossamer beauty of the butterfly, its winged nature and breathtaking release from a pupal cocoon have symbolized the soul reborn out of chrysalis-like containment. The butterfly begins as a caterpillar emerging from an egg. The caterpillar must eat enough plant life to last the entire lifespan of the butterfly. Since butterflies drink only sugary nectar, which provides no protein or fat, feeding voraciously, the caterpillar outgrows several skins until it exudes a thin, silken thread by which it hangs from tree or leaf as its final skin slowly hardens into a chrysalis. Like an alchemical vase, the chrysalis is both the golden vessel of transformation and the object transformed. Swaying gently in the wind, it gives no outward sign of the concealed unfolding within as the old forms dissolve and the embryonic tissue is restructured. It's just restructured in there. It's like there's some kind of invisible microscopic mad scientist at work, creating in their garage, as an inventor would. The butterfly is one of our most poetic images of Psyche's self-renewal beyond even traumatic endings. Australian Aborigines imagined butterflies as returning souls that entered the afterlife in the form of earthbound caterpillars. That's from Saunders, page 120. I wonder if that's from George Saunders. Nicholas Sanders in Animal Spirits from 1995. Okay, yeah. I say, okay, yeah, like I've read it. To the Aztecs, butterflies represented the heroic souls of sacrificed enemy warriors or of women who died in childbirth. Emblematic of their doomed suffering was the goddess Itzpilotl, a star deity depicted as a butterfly surrounded by stone knives and associated with the eclipse of the sun. In the East, the quiescent but transforming pupa has seemed a model of spiritual evolution through serene contemplation. That's a quote from Elizabeth Caspari from Animal Life and Nature, Myth and Dreams. The shadows of butterflies and moths is in their fluttering movement, which has suggested not only the flickering of fire, the twinkling of stars, but erraticism, anxiety, or inconstancy of desire. The Latin American word mariposa means both butterfly and prostitute. The mass, twilight fluttering of moths is darkly associated with the energies of compulsive devouring. Yet the fragility and transience of the moth and butterfly, which may live a few hours or a few months, the butterfly's bright flower-like colors, its drinking of fragrant nectars, and the way buttery grains of pollen adhere to its body, the moth's self-consuming attraction to the light, have made both creatures exquisitely potent images of ardent longing. The Greek myth of Eros and Psyche tells the story of passion, doubt, and separation between the soul and her beloved, and the torturous process that precedes their reunion. This drama is enacted in ourselves in countless ways. As libido pursues the objects of Psyche's desire, ways that can be poignantly self-destructive, as well as redolent of promise. That's the butterfly and the moth. Now that thing's got saucy on this one. And, I'm here for some sauce every once in a while. We all need some sauce, don't we? I'm not ashamed. I'm sauce positive over here. So what is interesting and stood out to me, and also struck out to me as well from that, was the mirror imaging of the butterfly and the moth. Two creatures that have the same beginnings, yet they live their lives in opposite ways. The butterfly being diurnal, living during the sun, or being out and about during the sun, and the moth being nocturnal, out at night. I didn't know it. It reminds me of this giant moth I caught on camera, I don't know, a year and a half ago or whenever it was, down in Kentucky. That was just so big. I think I put a TikTok video out about it. It was so big. It was bigger. It was like bigger than my fist. It was frightening me. That nocturnal beast, the Mothra, coming for blood. Do they, my blood's sugary sweet, so maybe they would drink my blood. Most moths don't drink blood, as far as I know, which is 0 inches. I don't know anything about moths other than what I just read. I think it's fascinating that they have to consume everything they will ever eat as a caterpillar for the entirety of their life as butterfly and or moth. Now they can drink, but they have to eat everything as a caterpillar. So that's an interesting visual. And you can see where, like, you're born from an egg. You become a caterpillar. You must devour the world around you so that your future self can thrive, right? And to be born into your new self that can truly fly, you must consume and devour as much as you can. Is that like a metaphor for life in general and becoming who you're supposed to become, right? We are born as these people from the egg of ignorance, essentially. Although I would like to think that we do have inherent knowledge. We do have that, much like other animals do. We have knowledge already pre-programmed into our minds, our consciousness, right? Anyway, we must learn, we must devour, we must consume everything that is around us, and we have to have curiosity for that. And not only do we have to have curiosity for that, we have to be encouraged. We have to have the situations, we have to have the set and setting that make it possible to be able to consume, to be curious, to learn. You can't do that if you're food insecure, or if you're home insecure, or if you're raised in an environment that is brutally violent and it's always pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling. You don't know if you're coming or you're going. My heart breaks for these people, right? And these people will take it upon themselves later in life, and maybe they bloom late, right? Because they didn't have the opportunity to have the security to go and consume all the leaves of books and, blades of grass of knowledge that they needed to truly become who they believe they are meant to be, and to spread their wings, to hatch, to have that metamorphosis, to Because I think our higher selves potentially are the mad scientist in the garage, working under the hood, so to speak, with the door closed, converting the caterpillar into the butterfly, right? What is it, our higher self, that is guiding that? And if it's not our higher self, and if our higher self is not us, then I was having this, there's just so much to consider. But I do believe that the consumption of this knowledge will lead us to be able to fly freely later in life as we take upon our truest form. And in that truest form, we will find ourselves no longer needing to consume or devour voraciously, but yet we will take part in the sipping of sweet nectar. That sounds pretty damn good from where I'm sitting. I don't know about you, but it sounds pretty damn good to me. So I hope you are sipping sweet nectar already. And if not, you're devouring. No big deal. You'll get there. You'll get there. You just don't give up the good fight. So come and see me do a stand-up comedy. That's where my wings are spread. On the podcast, when I'm doing comedy, this is when I get to spread my wings and fly and sip on that sweet nectar. I'll be in Louisville at Planet of the Tapes Friday, August 16th. Asheville, North Carolina, Catawba Brewing Company on Sunday, August 18th. Waterline Brewing Company, Wilmington, North Carolina, August 21st. Go Bananas Comedy Club, Cincinnati, Ohio, the 29th through the 2nd, I believe, of September, Labor Day weekend. And then Wiley's Comedy Club, September 7th. That show's already sold out. RyanSingerComedy.com/tour. Follow me on Instagram as well, at Rysing, RYSING. Ryan Singer Comedy on TikTok. I'm on all the things. I'm on all of the things. Most active on Instagram, probably. I love you. I hope you love yourself, you beautiful, beautiful butterfly. And you could be a beautiful moth, too. Moths are gorgeous. Moths are gorgeous, even when they're so large, they're scary. Moths are gorgeous, aren't they, indeed? So, thanks to Nigel for, doing the ones and the twos and the knobs and the levers. Gosh, I'm so excited to show you fits at some point. Thanks again to all the patrons. Your support goes a long way in helping me, feed myself and do these other things as I'm floating around, paying rent in an apartment now where I haven't lived yet. I can't wait to get back there mid-September. But and then, I'll be making some really fun announcements, about a big tour I'm planning for late winter, early spring. I've already got a couple dates on the books for that. We're talking West Coast style. It'll bleed into the Midwest and Southeast again, probably too. All kinds of fun things. I hope to see you at a live show sometime. And don't forget Paranonymous, the new podcast. People anonymously sharing experiences of high strangeness. I'll link all that stuff in the show notes. Take care of yourself. And if I don't see you at a show, I'll see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.